There's a 33-year-old man who makes more money than 60% of Americans. He has zero debt. He has $35,000 in savings, and he cannot afford to buy a starter home. Not because he's bad with money, not because he made mistakes, but because somewhere between when his parents bought their first home and when he tried to buy his, the entire system broke. And nobody told him. The gap between what a good salary buys today versus what it bought 20 years ago is so wide that millions of people are doing everything right and still losing. Today, I'm going to show you exactly what happened. The invisible force that turned home ownership from a normal middle-class milestone into something only the top earners can reach, and why the advice your parents gave you about buying a home no longer works in the world you were actually living in. Daniel's numbers. Daniel makes $82,000 a year. After taxes, health insurance, and his retirement contribution, he takes home about $5,700 per month. He has been saving $500 every single month for 4 years. No vacations, one roommate longer than he wanted, cooking at home, driving a paid-off 2012 Honda Civic. He did everything the personal finance advice told him to do. And after 4 years, he has $35,000. In his market, Charlotte, the median home price right now is $412,000. If Daniel puts 10% down, that's $41,200. He's $6,000 short. But let us say he waits 6 more months and saves the extra $6,000. Now he has his down payment. His loan amount would be $370,800. At today's mortgage rate of 6.5%, his monthly payment for principal and interest alone is $2,345. Add property taxes, $300, homeowners insurance, $170, HOA fees, $150, maintenance reserve, $280. His total monthly housing cost is $3,245. Daniel takes home $5,700 a month. Housing would consume 57% of his income. Every mortgage lender in the country will reject that application. The standard rule is housing should not exceed 28 to 30% of your gross income. For Daniel, that's about $1,900 a month. He's not even close. He does not qualify. Not because he's irresponsible, because the income required to afford the median home in Charlotte is approximately $112,000 per year, and Daniel makes $82,000. The gap is $30,000. No budgeting app closes a $30,000 structural gap. What this actually feels like for Daniel. It does not feel like a national housing crisis. It feels like opening Zillow on a Saturday morning, filtering for his price range and watching the results load. 12 homes in the entire metro area, all of them in neighborhoods he does not want to live in, or condos with HOA fees higher than rent. It feels like going to his coworker's housewarming party, genuinely happy for them, but mentally calculating what their mortgage payment must be and wondering what they did that he did not. It feels like his mom asking again when he is going to stop renting and build equity, and not having the energy to explain for the 5th time that he cannot afford to build equity. It feels like every cultural signal around him saying, by 33 you should own a home, while every financial signal says you are systematically excluded. And the worst part is, Daniel knows he's one of the lucky ones. He has no student loans, he has a stable career, he has savings. There are millions of people in worse positions than him, and if he can't make the math work, nobody can. So what happened? How did the system break this badly? Let me walk you through the exact sequence of events that created the world Daniel is trying to navigate. In March 2020, the Federal Reserve slashed interest rates to near zero in response to the pandemic. By January 2021, the 30-year mortgage rate hit 2.65%, the lowest rate in 50 years. People who had been sitting on the fence suddenly realized they could afford dramatically more house for the same monthly payment, so they bought. At the same time, the pandemic rewired what people needed from housing. Your home was now your office, your gym, your school, and your only social space. Remote work exploded. Millions of people who had been tolerating small, expensive apartments in cities decided they didn't need to tolerate it anymore. They left, and they all moved to the same places: Austin, Phoenix, Boise, Nashville, Tampa, places like Charlotte. Cities with already tight inventories suddenly had a stampede of buyers with low-rate pre-approvals and pandemic savings. National home prices jumped 37% between March 2020 and March 2022. Not over a decade, 2 years. Charlotte climbed 41%. If you bought in 2020 or 2021, you made one of the best financial decisions of your life, almost entirely by accident. But if you weren't in a position to buy during that window, what happened next made everything worse. By mid-2022, inflation was running at 9%. The Federal Reserve raised interest rates 11 times in 16 months, the fastest tightening cycle in 40 years. Mortgage rates followed. January 2022, 3.2%. October 2023, 7.8%. The average monthly payment on the same house doubled. Demand collapsed. Sales fell from 6.1 million in 2021 to just over 4 million in 2025. Prices should have fallen. Demand and supply, basic economics. But they didn't, because at the exact same time, demand collapsed, supply collapsed even harder. The lock-in effect. Here's the thing nobody talks about. Right now, about 51% of all homeowners in the United States have a mortgage rate below 4%. Daniel's parents bought their home in 2021 at 2.8%. Their monthly payment on a $320,000 loan is $1,293 per month. If they sold that house today and bought another one at 6.5%, that same loan would cost $2,023, $730 more every single month forever. That's $87,600 over 10 years, just in extra interest. So Daniel's parents aren't selling, not because they love their house, because a spreadsheet is holding them hostage. And they're not alone. The Federal Reserve estimates that this lock-in effect has suppressed 1.7 million homes that would have otherwise happened. 1.7 million homes that should be on the market are not, because the people who own them cannot afford to move. Active inventory right now is still 17% below pre-pandemic levels, and it's not recovering because the financial penalty for selling is so extreme that rational homeowners just stay. This is why prices haven't fallen. Demand collapsed, but supply collapsed harder, and Daniel is caught in the middle. He's competing for the small number of homes that do hit the market against buyers with more money, higher incomes, or family help, and he loses every time. Why this will not get better soon. So when does this get better? When do people like Daniel get a chance? The honest answer is not anytime soon. Everyone is waiting for mortgage rates to drop, and they will eventually. Most forecasts have rates ending this year between 5.7 and 6.1%, better than 6.5, but not enough. A recent survey found that 37% of current homeowners say they need rates below 5% before they would even consider selling. That threshold is not happening this year. The lock-in effect fades naturally over time. People have kids, people get divorced, people take new jobs, people retire. But that process takes 5 to 10 years, not 5 months. And even if rates drop quickly, that might make things worse before they make them better. Think about it. If rates suddenly fall to 5% tomorrow, millions of buyers who are sitting on the sidelines flood back into the market, but supply doesn't come back overnight. So what happens when massive demand hits limited supply? Prices spike. The same surge that happened in 2020 could partially repeat. Meanwhile, the supply side, the actual construction of new homes, is stuck. The United States is short somewhere between 3.5 and 4.5 million housing units. After the financial crisis, builders pulled back for an entire decade. What got built skewed toward the high end of the market because that's where the profit margins are. The starter home, under 1,400 square feet, that used to be the entry point for first-time buyers, has essentially been discontinued as a product. And new construction isn't ramping fast enough to close the gap. Tariffs on steel, aluminum, and lumber have added $10,000 to $17,000 to the cost of every new home. Builders are trying, but the hard truth is this. The supply shortage took 15 years to create. It will take at least 10 years to fix. There's no policy anyone can pass that builds 4 million homes in 2 years. What this actually means for Daniel. It means he's navigating the most dysfunctional housing market any generation has faced since World War II. Not the most dramatic, 2008 was more dramatic, but the most insidious, because it doesn't feel like a crisis. It feels like a new, permanent normal. The income required to buy the median home is $112,000. The median household income in Charlotte is $76,000. There's a $36,000 gap baked into the system before anyone even shows up. Daniel is not failing at adulthood. The math is broken, and he is part of a generation that is being systematically priced out of the wealth-building mechanism their parents used. The median age of a first-time homebuyer is now 40 years old. In the early 90s, it was 28. Buying at 40 instead of 30 costs roughly $150,000 in lost equity from the decade of appreciation you missed. 84% of Gen Z aspiring homebuyers are delaying at least one major life milestone because of housing. 29% are postponing having children. 18% are delaying marriage. 1 in 6 aspiring buyers have given up entirely. The American dream did not die. It just moved the goalposts so far that an entire generation cannot reach them anymore. Daniel is still renting. He is still saving, and he is still running the math every few months hoping something changed. It has not. If you are in Daniel's position, your frustration is legitimate. You are not bad with money. You are not entitled. You are not making excuses. You are living in a market where the structural gap between income and home prices is wider than it has been in modern history. The decision to buy has to be based on your real numbers, not the pressure you feel from everyone around you. If the math does not work, it does not work. And pretending it does because society says you should own a home by 35 does not make you financially stable. It makes you house poor. You are not failing. The system failed you, and understanding exactly how it failed is the first step toward making a decision that actually works instead of just participating in collective financial insanity. If this video helped you see the situation clearly, hit that like button, subscribe for more real financial truth, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. I will see you in the next one.